Bats are flying around on the third floor again, trapped. We live on a hill, so the height attracts them, like a belfry. My husband is gone again. The beans he planted in the garden during the full moon are wilting. I'm not tending to the new shoots in this July heat. Like the jungle, he says, this heat. The news is bad lately, more troops killed this month than in any other. I keep the paper away from him, but he watches the reports on
Passage. When you can barely feel the golden thread in your hand from how it trembles, slick with sweat, and you look into the dark with the light dwindling at your back, wondering if you will ever make it out again, is it strange that a body hesitates? Breathe in the dark, keep a firm grasp, and walk. Or maybe it's best to let your hand fall to your side, let the fingers unclench, curl only with the natural flex of the tendons, as if what was needed for living could be found this way, in the spark and crackle of nerves webbing under skin, the hand looking for an answer, here in the wood, and what happens as it moves, tracing patterns, whirl, loop, arch, and the mind finds itself caught between crest and trough of the wave, these dark lines, the others seeking. Thank you.
Rhiannon had run away. From her husband, from her mother-in-law, sisters-in-law, the doctor, another doctor, the village minister, another minister from another parish, yet another minister from yet another parish, a toothless gypsy she herself had surreptitiously consulted for a fortune of £50 and a lock of her fiery red hair. From the inescapability of her barrenness. They had tried for 3 years. The morning before she fled, the man who had once been the habit of making her daisy chains and kissing her 100 times before he entered her, had growled, "Might as well stick it up your anus, woman," and being so rough with her, the soft bedsheet did not look unlike the hard board he butchered limper ewes on for mutton. She had not wept, not even when her husband had banged shut the door so violently that the framed picture of the baby Jesus she balanced by her bed had toppled off the table and smashed. She sat still. She bandaged herself, bundled herself up in a sheepskin coat, laced up tight her walking boots, hurried out of her husband's sheep farm into the bleak wilderness of the valley without looking back. When she told her husband what had occurred, he gave her the benefit of the doubt, because his wife was normally a very sensible, no-nonsense kind of woman, and he was a very loving, trusting husband, and related the matter at the town hall that evening when there happened to be a monthly gathering. How a fairy wearing a golden crown had appeared to his no-nonsense wife, how she had introduced herself as the poppy queen and claimed to be responsible for all the poppies that had sprung up everywhere, how she had requested that everyone put a Welsh cake outside their front door on Midsummer's Eve. Of course, the village people didn't buy the story for a second. They thought it was a ridiculous ruse for the baker to get himself more business, for from whom else were the people to purchase the Welsh cakes? On the way out of the meeting, they laughed loudly in Mr. Davis's round red face and declared that he was a fool to think that they would swallow this fanciful fairy baloney. The following week, on Midsummer's Eve, no one apart from the baker and his wife left out a Welsh cake outside their front door. But alas, how the parishioners came to regret their contempt. A few days later, the terrible scarlet fever found a footing in every household except the baker's. Every family had a member who was covered with the itchy red rash, who ran a fever of over 104 degrees, who had a tongue the scarlet of the poppies, which now began to spring up in everyone's back gardens too. 19 children and 11 adults, including a village doctor, had died by the time the villagers decided to heed the baker's advice and place a Welsh cake outside their door. The baker handed them out for free. And lo and behold, no sooner was a Welsh cake offered by a household than did the scarlet fever disappear as suddenly as she had come. Poof! Everyone was healthy and happy again, as well as fearing of the poppy queen. Never since then have the people of Llindivan not put out a Welsh cake on Midsummer's Eve.
I'm the only one on the ward who's qualified to handle this kind of thing, though I'd make a deal with the devil if only I could pawn it off on someone else. When Mrs. McMurphy started to flail around 2 a.m. this morning, telling someone called Virginia that she was going to hell, I knew it was her time. Sure enough, not 10 minutes later, the corners of my eyes started to go black, and I knew they were coming. To deny what life really is, living while you're dying, knowing that each moment that passes is a moment you'll never hold in your hand again, no matter how hard we try to recapture. I always feel drained after a patient dies, but not this drained. I haven't given one of them my saliva in decades, not since. The sudden roar in my ears almost takes me down to my knees. I can feel the dried husks of my veins, my arteries